Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to 999. So, we, in the last recording, got a revelation, if 7 is to be believed, that apparently a bunch of kids got kidnapped by a pharmaceutical company trying to do some kind of brain control experimentation on them. And those kids were brought to the ship that we're on. We're stuck on this single layer ending flow path, so I think that's probably going to confirm that that's going to be the story and the ending we get. We're in the middle of an escape section, but we just finished with 7 having a bunch of, like, some memories, but not all memories, returned to him. Let's see. I'm going to put the drawer without the handle in here and see if that does anything. Apparently not. In his memory, he found that there was a vent under the... So we also have this like tile and towel. We haven't figured out what to do with any of that. Let's see what this drawer does. Sounded like something falling. What was that? So what we would want to do is now talk to Lotus if we could. And it's a shame that this is too much of a visual novel and not enough of a video game. Because the idea here would be to float what we just heard from 7 to Lotus. Find out if Lotus somehow was either one of the kidnapped kids, which is hard to believe because they keep calling her old, even though she's not drawn old. And she might be some kind of like programmer slash psychic scientist, not psychic, that worked for the evil company to kidnap the kids, and that might be the connection there. That's a thought, at least. So if we could get her to admit any kind of connection whatsoever to what 7 said, that then leads us back to the original idea of what is it that connects all of these people. And Clover still is a question mark, because she would have been too young to have been one of the kidnapped kids. And several of the other people are too old to be one of the kidnapped kids. So the age ranges here definitely make some of this questionable. And how Santa, for instance, would fall into the story, I don't know. It could also be, though, that 7 just lied about that whole story, or that the Nonary game has nothing to do with it. So we just put in the drawer from the other room, and now that gave us another tile. So we have 2 tiles, but you can't merge them together. From the looks of it, they look identical. If we cycle at this towel, like, I feel like the towel may play a bigger role. The only other room here would be down here. So if this is the room with the air vent, see, I think the idea is that, see if we put the tile on the mirror. That won't work any. Let's see, tile on the mirror, tile. So the only thing we had done is we were able to use the mirror to see this 4-7, and we were able to see this to see the sun and the moon. We weren't able to open it. Then over here Unless I'm supposed to use the tiles. Here. When I touched the tiles on the door, I felt something weird. Huh? I can move these tiles. Then that means maybe if you swap the tiles with we got with the tiles on the wall, something happens. Suppose now we just need to figure out what strange designs on these tiles mean. At any rate, we should look for all the tiles that are the exact same size. You're right. Let's meet back here after we've done a thorough search. So they're telling me specifically that I haven't found all the tiles. Let's see what happens if we use the towel. Drawing the mirroring is just like the image on the towel. Towel has a river and a spring, is it? This mirror has a river on it, indicating the Saint when. See, yeah, I think I've already kind of solved that. So there's a number right there, right too. Number. That's probably how many times you're supposed to flush. How many times are you going to pull the string? Oh, okay. So then it would have been the moon symbol was 7, and is it going to actually make me pull it a bunch? 3. 4th time. And if we mess up, and if this doesn't give us any kind of, yeah, flushing a toilet 7 times. So a bad puzzle design there, because basically that means I could have just kept on flushing anyways. So So we come over here. We'll see if we can use the towel with this. Am I supposed to use the towel with this? I don't think so. Once. Notice that there's kind of a really large click box around the string, so you don't have to be pixel perfect. So yeah, you just click it and it will lock into place. So yeah, I assume what has happened now by doing those two things, it's opened this drawer. And then we now have a 3rd tile and a 4th tile. Did it really need to show me both animations? By the looks of it, let's say these tiles look exactly the same, other than the fact that some might be, nope, they're all the same. Thought maybe some might be mirror versions of them. So do I now have enough? Yeah, it's a little weird that it seemed like they were establishing a set of rules when we did these escape the rooms, that you would find something important to get some kind of verbalized dialogue with one character. You'd always be in groups of 3 or more, and then you'd find something else and have a verbalized conversation with the other character. but it seems like that's not always guaranteed, and it does seem like we're not going to have that kind of conversation with Lotus. So I guess the real question would come back to, is there any reason in the way this story has flowed to believe Lotus is Zero? I mean, we barely had any interaction with her at all, so it'd be very weird for her to show up and surprisingly turn into a killer. Alright. So now we're gonna have to do a puzzle. So, what can we spell that would make sense? Are we putting 4 letters here? Or are we spelling something here? Yeah. We would need a 5-letter word, I guess. And you can see like the number 14, something like that. We can kind of spell different things. How would we know what the right thing is, though? Mirage can't be spelled. It has to be E words. You could spell green, which, why would you spell green? We saw a sun and a moon. We saw 4 and 7. We saw... what else? Yeah, there seems like we haven't seen anything that would explain this. Two words? Perhaps? I mean, you could get min, certainly. You can't get greed. You could get cree. Let's come back here. Junpei, calm down. Just have to replace 4 tiles. Yeah, you're right. It's just 4 tiles I need to think. What do we have on the... Yeah, what would any of this have to do with anything? Towel with a river and a spring. And over here, kind of have nothing. Over here, we kind of have nothing. And over here, kind of have nothing. Emergence. So, is there a way to replace 4 here? All of a sudden we have a puzzle here that it's not making a lot of sense. So I kind of think we can reset it. I kind of think I just want to back out and just have it tell me what to do, because I'm not following. I'm really not following. There's no hint at all. Am I supposed to keep everything where it is? And if I am supposed to keep everything where it is, then why does this allow me to do this and then swap like these like that? Am I supposed to potentially spell something like here? Like, I believe is the word. So me, would work. I mean, you could spelling. No. You could spell something. Revenge? No, there's no V. You can definitely spell green. But you only have 4 plates. And the symbols don't mean anything to me at all. Red can't be spelled. We don't have a D. Blue definitely can't be spelled. Gray can't be spelled. I mean you can spell like cream, maybe, if that's how you spell cream. You can definitely do anything ER. Think carefully. What the tiles you think carefully what the tiles you're holding mean. If you don't know what that is, then maybe you need to examine them a little bit closer. Examine the tiles I have. So maybe I didn't examine them. Have you taken a close look at this tile, Junpei? And notice the 3 red lines here are actually at the top of the, on top of the other lines. Red lines, yes. Red lines, don't they look like they form a 14? Sure, 14, huh? I guess it kind of does. So 14, and then what? If the gray lines are behind that, like if this is 14, and then we look at the gray lines. So 1 and 4, and then maybe the X is supposed to be 10, and then the gray lines maybe are supposed to be, I don't know. Alright, let's try 1 and 4. 1 and 4. Then what? Yeah, this is the problem. This is the problem right here, is you're not gonna be able to figure this out. Junpei, don't you think a hint for this, there's a hint for this somewhere? If you're not sure, make sure you take a good look at everything and think it all over again. So we're just like getting hinted at here. And that's all we're gonna get from any of these tiles. Mirror on the back of the drawer. Maybe merge that with that. Nope. Let's go back over here. Let's see if we can do this. Nope, I can't pull on the toilet anymore. This has a... Isn't that obvious? Look, I don't want to touch anything unless I have to. Lois is not having this. Does she really not want to be in the room, this room that bad? Interesting. So we got a little bit of more dialogue with Lotus. $14 would be 5. You can't spell 5 with those letters. Did we just never turn on this? Let's see. It's a sink, but there's no light shining on it. So let's see if we can walk. So it's not even going to let me do that puzzle anymore. $14 equals E. Oh, okay. So I just had not come out to this point, and so there was just literally something. Okay. So, yeah, I guess I was being pretty stupid there. If I look here, 1, 2, 3, 4 E's. I should have figured that out. Hey, did you hear something? Unlock? Does that mean we got it right? Yes, it looks like we did. The 14 hidden on the tile. If you convert that to hexadecimal, it's E, so we're back to hexadecimal. I wasn't even thinking about hexadecimal. Basically, the E's in emergence are the 14s from the tiles. So if we replace it, that gives us the answer. So I guess the question is, are the other letters supposed to be some number also? Do you really care why it worked? Let's just get out of here. So are we gonna escape the room? Or are we gonna just be in a different area? I guess we escaped the room. And because of that, we didn't get any new key or anything. Which it feels like we should have. Or we have to find a 9 door or something. Because now we are potentially just going to wander back to the rest of the group, assuming they're still alive. And this whole side story was only worth getting that backstory from 7 potentially recovering his memories, assuming he's not faking that have amnesia and the kids being kidnapped. Junpei jogged down the short staircase and looked around. So by the looks of it,
what the hell is this place?
We are, if we were to look in the flow, we're gonna have a brief novel section, and then maybe another escape section, and then the bottom square I think is always an ending section that's probably a novel section. So is this where they were doing an experiment on the kids, or is this just a good old-fashioned electric chair? We had seen hospitals and laboratories before on this ship, but they didn't really give any indication that they were doing anything too nefarious, although in the one hospital laboratory room we did do a puzzle in, there was that weird robot that seemed very high technology considering how everything else on the ship seems pretty old-fashioned technology. So Lotus and Seven reach the bottom of the stairs and stop short, terrified. One assumes that when you're getting narration like this, that's true. Perhaps better to write looking terrified instead of terrified.
Oh, this room is really creepy.
Yep.
I think we ought to get the hell out of here now.
Let's just keep the story going. It's locked.
Figures.
It's locked, isn't it?
Yep. Don't know why I thought this would be any different.
So, what is this room for, anyway?
Junpei looked around the room again. Am I gonna get a choice?
There's a chair in the center of the room.
Am I gonna get a choice of what to say in any of this? Probably not.
It looks uncomfortable to say the least. I'd rather not sit in it if I can avoid it.
This would be kind of sucky if we end up electrocuting Lotus and she's just yet again kind of the hated character of the author. Yeah, I would say that the creators of this game, the authors, should probably have spread their hate around a little bit, or their disdain a little around on some of the other characters. They seem really to have no problem that Santa seems to be a degenerate gambler, and they, yeah, that would be probably the best example there. I guess it was also worth mentioning in the middle of the screen. There's like weighted chains, ball and chains, on the floor. The back of it was covered with electrodes connected to a nest of wires.
Like it's placed over some kind of glass panel. Too dark to look through it, though.
This might be a room that actually could be used to briefly stop the heart of somebody, and then people could get their bracelets taken off, and everybody could escape, which would be a way to get a good ending, except for number 9 and Snake, who seem to die no matter what.
This isn't dried blood on the tablecloth, is it?
Yeah, it would kind of suck if they have to electrocute everybody, though. But for a jigsaw murder trap, having to electrocute yourself is not a terrible outcome. It's better than having to chop off an arm.
Oh, what the hell is this?
Here we're getting implications of violence and gore.
What are these tools for?
That's not something I even want to think about.
No doubt about it. This room's dangerous. Let's make our search quick so we can solve the puzzle and get the hell out of here. Come on.
We're in a weird position where you might be better served to get more backstory from 7, but you kind of want to get some input from Lotus also. This is just straight up labeled as a torture room. Let me ask something on the map here. Like, I guess we can't even see the main map. Yeah, no buttons seem to bring up the main map at all. They seem to have quite a lot of things. Can't click on the ball and chain. Something under the glass that either ejects you out of the ship, or This device will conduct the experiment. Once the experiment has been completed, the door will unlock. First, adjust the switches to match the blocks in the samples above. Huh? I don't know what this thing is, but we've got to figure out this puzzle. It's right next to the torture chair. Whatever it is, I don't think it's good. Anyway, we just adjust the switches to match up the blocks on the top right. Yeah, you adjust the switches at the four corners of the screen and press the check button. Junpei, we don't know what this thing does. You can always come back to it later. There's lots of other things you could do. So, whenever you turn on one of these switches, more blocks show up on the screen. So I think you gotta figure out which buttons you have to press in order to get the screen to match the diagram. Yeah, but it's hard to figure out what button does what. If you want to see how many blocks each switch adds, just turn on one switch. When all of them are off, there aren't any blocks, right? Then you can see how much each switch adds. Oh yeah, I get it. So we're getting too much help when I wasn't ready for it. Adz and hammer. I don't know what an adz is. A pair of forceps. And those other things are too old and broken. I have no idea what they are. Hey, doesn't this wrench look way too new to be in all this other stuff? Yes, it does. I didn't notice it before you mentioned it, but it's not rusty at all. So, we're not gonna take anything else off this table. Pipe is connected to that thing over in the corner. I imagine there were electrical wires running through the pipe to the device. It's been like that in every room we've entered in. What did you expect? There's no point in trying to go back. Yep, I'm just clicking on things. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of being unable to look at things without getting several lines of sentences and just a reaction from other people. So we use the wrench to take off the bolts, and I guess we're not taking the bolts. Could be something dangerous in there. So you stick our arm in. Let's think about this. And we don't have the wrench anymore. Okay. Stick our arm in. Feel something. It's small, cold, and hard. It doesn't feel like there's anything else. Alright, let's see what this thing is. We now have the sun key, which on the flow, does that mean that we will have a key icon in this one section? And does that mean that there is a possible ending here where we went down this path and we wouldn't have had sun key? These buttons switch something off and on when you push them. Okay. These are all rusted. What do these do? A lot of backstory here where I'm just trying to click on things and see what will react and what won't. So we've got these buttons. So I guess if I click A and then we come over here and we look at this. Let's see, off, off, And they've got like a hint system in particular. So this makes that shape. This makes that shape which overlaps. This makes that shape which overlaps quite a bit. And that makes that shape. So what are we trying to make here? Are you trying to mirror a shape? Or what? See, I guess we'll check here and just see what this says. Error. Right. But no feedback, so check. If we did this and this. What if we check this and this? I don't really feel like any of these are right. Like, I kind of don't feel like there's a solution here. Can kind of get a merge that way. When you turn each switch on, the number of blocks goes up. Each switch adds a different number of blocks. But if you think about it, all you gotta do is a couple of addition problems. If you turn a single switch on, count its blocks, and do that for each switch, it's super easy. Is it? Adjust the switches to match the blocks on top, then press the check button. Alright. So this adds 1, 4, 2, 4. This adds 3, 1, 2, 1, which kind of feels like this would add up something completely different, but doesn't seem like it is. Give me a hint. Okay, the hint apparently is the solution. Alright, well, let's see if we can make it look like this. It really just feels like... Yeah, so apparently this is the solution. I have no idea why. Not one bit. The block in the top left does not match any of the other blocks, and none of the other blocks match each other either. So... yeah, there's something being lost in translation here, or this is just a really poorly designed puzzle. I can't assume in this case that I skipped over 1 or 2 sentences and it didn't explain itself. But apparently that's worked. And it doesn't seem like I'm going to have to do that puzzle multiple times. Also, I would say a puzzle like this, if that was going to be a major gameplay mechanic or a gameplay mechanic at all, we should have probably done a simpler version of that way earlier in the game. This is really late game to throw something new at us. They would have been better just to give us a digital root puzzle instead. It's not like we've done too many of those. Now proceeding to the execution phase. To complete the experiment, data must be collected from the subject. Once preparation is finished, place subject in chair. Whoa, I thought we solved the puzzle already. What does it mean by preparation? I don't know. Got a bad feeling about this. I think it means one of us has to sit in the chair. Well, 7's never gonna fit in that thing. It's either you or me, Junpei. Collecting data. I wonder if it's gonna run electricity through the subject. There's a human head on screen. Maybe it's gonna zap the brain with a little electricity. It really doesn't sound safe. Anyway, we've still gotta prepare. We can talk about this after we figured out what it means by preparation, alright? Well, it wants us to prepare, so maybe we ought to ask it what we need to do. So am I literally supposed to go back to the screen? Disposal tank is closed. Please fill tank with water. What tank? Oh man, don't tell me that we've got to do something with a water tank. Well, there's probably something around here to open the tank or whatever it's asking us to do. Looks like the only controls are in this room. Okay. So, what are we gonna do? I can see some oil or something down there at the base of the lever. Feels like it's got some movement to it. We should be able to pull this one. Alright, let's pull the lever. Is that water? What the heck? What's going on? Will you calm down? It's just water going somewhere. Sounds like it's underneath us. That means the floor. Oh, Junpei, look. What's she? Oh, darn. I can see through the glass now. What is this, a dead shark? Apparently. It would be interesting if I shock myself and this is how we're going to get like the solutions to puzzles in our brain in future playthroughs. So you would have to go through this right path on the flow to potentially get a good ending. We'll have to see what really happens. The flow definitely feels like though we're not gonna end up in much of a different place than where we did in the first ending. EDBF from the looks of it. So E, D, B, and F. There's a strange noise coming from the chair. It looks like it's been turned on. I guess the puzzle here was the power on, that the power had to be sent in a specific way. So we're gonna pull this. That one doesn't pull. So 7 tries to pull it. You're gonna break it. Man, this thing ain't going anywhere. Okay. So then let's look at the panel, and then we have to strain device is locked but empty. The subject has not been properly placed. Man, I'm having trouble pronouncing things at this point. Please unlock the restraining device and reseat. Need to unlock the chair now. Sun key should fit into the keyhole of these manacles. We didn't even know that. Alright, sun key is a go, and yes. Great, they're open. I don't think we're gonna need the sun key again in here though. Just seems unlikely. Alright, sun key, you've done your job. Into my pocket you go. So I'm gonna just try and sit in it. I think Junpei should shock himself. And the best argument I can make for that, other than just benevolent sexism, as it were, to protect the woman in the story, would be that females tend to have a slightly higher amount of fluid retention than males. which is to say that they have a slightly lower resistance to electrical shock. Also, I don't really see a reason why Junpei should be the only one that's not put in danger. Also, he also risked a lot by forcing himself and June to be in the same room when we went through the 3-door. The only argument against Junpei being in the machine himself would be the idea that Lotus is selfish, and so she might betray everybody at the last second. But, yeah, I don't know what to do about that. We may have to rewind back to this point. Please seat the subject in the device. This message screen was disturbingly detached.
Well, like we thought, it's not going to work unless someone sits in it.
We probably won't get a decision.
How ironic that this would be the situation in which this slim, beautiful body is useful.
So, is she making the argument that only she is small enough to fit in the chair? I kind of disagree with that. If we could see an image of Junpei, he's pretty much the same size, at least as the two characters are drawn. All the metal on her might help a little bit, but probably wouldn't.
Lotus, are you sure?
So she's just gonna volunteer. You don't get a choice.
I can sit in it and you can solve.
Junpei's right. If we screw it up.
Seven couldn't bring himself to finish the thought. His eyes fell to the floor. Junpei followed them. You screw it up, then you get thrown into a shark with a dead tank. And probably drown. Or, if you screw it up, you get thrown into a tank with a dead shark. Why would a shark, though, like, why would the shark be electrocuted, and why would the shark be the one that they were doing experiments on and using a human-looking restraint device if that was the case?
I'll be fine. Even if I fall in, the shark is already dead.
Yeah. I'd be more concerned about drowning.
But
no one likes an indecisive man, Junpei. I can still give you advice from the chair too, you know. I just don't want to stay in this room any longer than we have to. Go over to that screen and let's get this over with.
This is a very selfless action for Lotus, considering how when we did interact with her in the first playthrough, she was pretty selfish. So it is nice bit of evidence that the characters might be very different depending on the paths you take. They may just be totally written differently. Clover, for instance, may not turn into an axe killer in this path. And if she does, it would really just be out of nowhere. I guess the bigger question is, are you going to be forced to lock her in the restraints? All of a sudden, it's going to be funny if you can choose.
Do you think you could do me one last favor?
Don't say last.
So now we may get some more backstory.
You're making me nervous.
Just listen. If something happens to me, I want you to tell my daughters.
Now, she said she was a mother before, and it was almost half a joke in the first playthrough.
Tell them that I loved them very much.
So, if she has daughters, could they have been the kids that were kidnapped? Maybe. But then the kids that were kidnapped, I don't think were ever recovered, or at least we've seen no evidence to that.
No. Tell them that I will always love them.
Daughters?
her having daughters, though, like, doesn't make her an old hag in my mind. It just makes her an adult.
You've got kids?
Yes, I do. I suppose they're about your age, Junpei.
That makes her kind of old. You know what they should have done is they probably should have put more streaks of gray in her hair and more wrinkles on her face, definitely. They're going for kind of an anime trope here that I don't think really translates, of an old woman being overly aggressively sexual in dress and trying to relive her youth. Like that, some of that idea definitely translates, but like the cougar mentality, but the way she's drawn, it really doesn't make her seem as old as she would have to be, because we're thinking Junpei and June are probably in their 25-year-old range, which would put Lotus at best in her 45 to 50-year-old range. Again, not an old hag. Certainly people that are 50 years old are really not that old these days, but yeah, more gray in her hair, or if she was wearing a wig and they mentioned a couple times that she was wearing a wig, or if she said that she was old, but she's got a lot of life in her or something like that, that would be different.
They're twins. I had them when I was young after some things happened.
So, wow, are we going to go really dark in this backstory? Twins?
Their names are Nona
and Aoi?
Wait. Nona?
Nona probably isn't that weird of a first name, though. Junpei's world shot out before he even realized what he was saying. He remembered the story Seven had told him.
Aoi, Light, and Nona.
So, if it was Aoi and Nona were kidnapped and Light was the one that died, then that puts a real connection between these two characters and the kidnappings as to the events that are happening here right now. That then leaves 6 other people that in some way would have had to been connected to this story. 6 other kidnapped kids that would somehow have to connect to Junpei, June, Santa, Clover, Snake, Ace also. And I don't know how all of they connect. Unless this is going to be a turn of events where only a couple of people in the Nonary game are connected, and the larger group really doesn't have a central connecting factor. In the same way that June and Junpei went to school together, so they had a connection, and Snake and Clover were related to each other, allegedly, at least, and they're sticking with that, I guess. But that would leave Ace out and number 9 out, and the captain 0. We still don't know the connection there.
Those were their names. Well, some of them.
Let's move the story and figure out what's going on.
But what the hell? What's wrong with you?
Lotus took a step back from Junpei.
Oh.
Seven looked just as shocked as Junpei. He blinked his eyes rapidly as if he weren't sure if he was completely awake. Remember again, if we weren't on the novel screen right now, we wouldn't be getting any of that. This.
No way. It couldn't. Lotus, is your last name...
Is her last name... How would you know her last name?
Kashiwabara?
Just a name coming out of nowhere. Lila's eyes went wide.
How do you know that?
You serious? What the hell is this? There's no way you're that kid's mom.
That kid? Wait, what do you mean that kid? Why are you acting like you've met her?
Seven's burial forward.
I have.
What?
Yeah, I met one of your kids.
When?
9 years ago.
Where?
On this ship.
Why were you...
It's not a short story.
You tell the whole story. We need to get this interconnection. And see, had I been able to talk to Lotus about what Seven had just said, the second after Seven had just told me that story and gotten his memories back, that would have revealed all of this a little bit quicker. Not that it's really going to change much in this story.
I don't care how long it is. Tell me, please, what happened here?
Fine, I'll tell you.
Seven glanced at Junpei, then turned back to Lotus and began to speak. It was the same story Junpei had heard only minutes before, every detail.
But... And then... That was when...
It's just going to skip through all of this. This screen in particular, just badly drawn. Cheaply drawn.
Just as if...
Is he going to have more memories after this point?
That's all I remember from 9 years ago.
So, either Lotus got her kids back, or she's subtly saying go to their empty graves and tell her that she'll always tell them that she'll always love them, which that's a big assumption. Lotus shook her head.
Oh my god. Everything I've been looking for the last 9 years.
Oh, wow. This would be the amazing twist. If it turns out the reason why Lotus is so scantily dressed is because she was acting as a spy undercover to find out what happened to her kids, it really just smacks me in the face for being so distracted by it. Although, I guess that was their intention, certainly. And you could have either gone two ways at this. You could have been very distracted by her odd dress, or you could have blown her off because of the way she was dressed and just assumed that she was a nothing exhibitionist, scantily clad, lewd woman, which maybe from a Japanese perspective that would happen a little bit more.
The person who had all the answers was right here.
Looking for?
Yes, that's right. 9 years ago, my daughters disappeared.
Okay. Tell us the rest of the story, please.
And 9 days later, they came back.
So they did get returned.
They never told me what happened to them over those 9 days. I took them to the doctor, but I was told they hadn't been hurt in any way. Still, I was sure that they had been through something terrible. So I couldn't bring myself to force them to talk about it. If I did, then I'd force them to relive whatever horrors they'd been through.
Yeah, I imagine therapy is not heavily embraced in Japan, or even heavily offered in Japan, and it's not heavily embraced pretty much anywhere. Maybe California embraces it a little too much.
I didn't have any choice. I had to try and ignore it and move on.
Oh.
So the two daughters were kidnapped for 9 days, and they were brought back. One assumes that the experiments either failed or succeeded, and it didn't matter so much. But the two daughters clearly don't have anything to do with what's going on right now, unless the two daughters are in some way Zero, and they're trying to figure out what happened through the Nonary Games. But then I don't know why they would throw their own mother into the Nonary Game unless they suspect her of potentially selling her children to these experiments, which might be the twist. But again, that's probably too complicated a story for what's really going to happen.
A few months passed. Gradually, they started to act like they always had, before they disappeared. They smiled and made jokes and did all the silly things kids do.
Okay.
It got harder and harder for me to ask them about what happened. How could I ask them to remember that? Eventually, I knew there was no way I could do it.
Ha.
But I'm still a mother. I couldn't simply forget that something terrible had happened to my children.
This is a different animation. I think you see this maybe once or twice previously.
So I decided I would investigate what happened on my own. I would find out what happened during those 9 missing days.
What did you find out?
Nothing. The police pretended to be concerned, but they didn't do anything. Once the 16 children who'd gone missing came back, things were just... Even the media didn't talk about what had happened. I figured someone was probably paying or threatening them to keep their mouths shut.
So all 16 children came back? Well, then who was the person that died?
Rydo Pharmaceuticals. No, probably something even bigger than that.
Cradle Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, does she know them?
Have you heard of them before?
No. It's the first time I've ever heard that name.
It's a terrible name for a business. Like, the last thing anybody wants to think is that their child might be sick, that a baby might need drugs. And the idea of drugging a baby is kind of offensive. Also, a lot of times they don't give drugs or test drugs on very young children. It's just too dangerous. Their bodies are not just small adult bodies, and even kids' bodies aren't just small adult bodies. So medicine doesn't work usually the same way, and it can be extremely dangerous. So the idea of making a pharmaceutical company that in its name seems to be focused on babies is a bad idea.
7. How did you find out that Cradle Pharmaceuticals was connected to the kidnappings in the first place?
I figured finding out whatever the victims had in common would lead me to the culprit. That's what any good cop does.
What did they have in common?
Every single one of the kids who disappeared had gone to this one hospital at some point. The hospital was one of a bunch that were under the control of Cradle Pharmaceuticals. After that, it was just about connecting the dots.
So Cradle Pharmaceuticals apparently pretty dumb too, because if Cradle Pharmaceuticals had a bunch of hospitals, why not kidnap the 16 kids from different hospitals that Cradle Pharmaceuticals had control over? I guess it's also worth mentioning that only 12 blurry images are being shown. So there could have been 4 images lower on the screen that are being hidden for one reason or another.
The hospital.
The hospital.
For a while, I was trying to get some kind of information out of the kids at the hospital. One of them told a weird story.
What was it?
Have you heard about the Gansfeld experiment?
Oh man, seems like we're back into a conspiracy talk again.
I guess all these kids had to go through it while they were at the hospital. I think it was passed off as some sort of counseling.
What did you call it again?
Oh, the Gansfeld experiment.
Yeah, that totally feels like text that on the Nintendo DS you could have clicked on and gotten more of an explanation as far as what that is.
This is how it's
They're
set.
gonna do it anyways.
First, subjects Q and A are put into separate rooms, far away from one another.
Alright, why are you calling it Q and A? Questioner and answerer?
Then a series of video images are shown to subject Q, who is told to send the images to subject A by thinking about them.
So yeah, this is some kind of psychic experiment that I don't think anybody legitimately has done or tried to do in hundreds of years, because none of them ever succeeded or worked. And there's no science to even found the basis of doing an experiment like this.
Subject A, on the other hand, is put in a large reclining chair, given a blindfold. With their senses cut off, A is asked to guess what images Q is looking at.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that. It's a famous telepathy experiment, isn't it?
Telepathy.
Were all of the kids that were kidnapped twins? Would be another question. Because if that was the case, then Zero might be the twin of the kid that died.
That's how the experiment on this ship was supposed to work.
Experiment to control people, right?
Yeah. I don't know if any of the telepathy stuff really exists, but maybe someone from Cradle Pharmaceuticals bought into it.
Lotus grunted. And odd, they grunt quite a lot, but that's the first time the novel screen has told us it outright.
Even if that is the case, I still don't get how that has anything to do with any of this. The Nonary Game, Zero, why we were kidnapped. What does any of that have to do with telepathy? I know I brought all this up, but I have no idea.
It is still a good question.
None of this stuff is connected after all.
That would be the irony of all ironies, as if there's just no reason or rhyme. And there kind of can't be too much reason or rhyme, otherwise how did they end up with 2 sequels to this game? A cold voice echoed down from the ceiling. Well, I wasn't expecting that.
No subject has been detected. Unless a subject is detected within 60 seconds, all power will be shut down.
So they hired a voice actor to do 1 line of dialogue, apparently, but they weren't willing to do anything about all the narration or have the other voice actors voice the vast majority of the time that they could have said something more, or that they do say something more.
System recovery is estimated to take 1 hour.
I guess maybe on the Nintendo DS there really was just a really cheap way to have a very small cartridge with very little audio room in the data in the hard drive, as it were, to put in full voice acting. But I kind of think in the DS version there's probably no voice acting at all, so then it really would have just been a case of them not wanting to spend enough budget to fully voice act the game. It definitely feels cheap.
If you wish to proceed with the experiment, please seat subject in the restraining device.
So, yep, we are being forced to move forward with the electrocuting of Lotus. And otherwise we'll be trapped in a room. That'll probably be the bad ending.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going.
Yeah, at this revelation though, I don't know why Junpei wouldn't say, I've got to go.
That's not what we...
Just hurry up and get it over with. Junpei, I'm counting on you.
Right.
Sure hope this doesn't force me into some kind of mini game where I can actually screw this up. Sat down in a chair, looked at her. Junpei looked at her one last time, then made his way to the monitor.
Lotus, please, tell me right away if you feel anything weird.
You worry too much. Now get on with it and be a man, or June's gonna leave you.
Lotus was putting on the best act she could, but her legs were shaking so much that if she hadn't been sitting, she would have likely fallen down. Failure was not acceptable.
Okay, let's do this.
Junpei took one last deep breath and stared at the monitor. Okay, so we need to... I have no clue. I kind of feel like we need to get this to balance. I guess maybe that's balanced. So maybe that's right. Let's go ahead and check that. Nope. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. I guess maybe I'm supposed to be getting both things configured this way. This might just be a case of what is the highest number you can get. Or this might be a case of trying to get as high as possible all the way to the end. I think it's probably trying to get us all the way to the end. Hint. Okay, well apparently the hint is this is the shape you're supposed to have. I couldn't really care, like, honestly. So this one's supposed to be square, so it's supposed to be 4 and 4. Let's see if the hint is the same over here. It's supposed to be everything over here. Okay. Does anything change? See, because it feels like you can turn both things on, and this just kind of sucks. It's just not good. Just not the experience you want. How come toggle, toggle, and toggle? Because it seems like it goes from off to 1 to 2 and then off. Okay. So what you're clicking on is not even really doing what I thought that it was doing. Because I thought I was toggling 2 independently of 1. And it's fairly obvious that that's not the case. This sucks, and I'm glad there's no timer here, but it's not good. It's definitely not good. That's the best. So this could be 1 or 2. And so we need to figure out if that one over there, how that affects our solution over here. So I'm gonna have this at 2. And then I'm gonna swap this. And then one or 2. I think I've got everything on this side, right? Yeah, I don't know if the game is just screwing with me. Maybe what this is that you have to get one side right and then check it. What's wrong here? This looks exactly right. Oh, this is just so bad. It really doesn't have anything to do with where we were in as far as doing any of the other puzzles. I just check it there. So the first one gives you 2, second one gives you 2, so that's 2 always. First one gives you nothing, and second one gives you 1. So what does this do when it's in the one place? It gives you 2 up here, which is probably not too useful. And when it's over here, it gives you 3 over here, which kind of makes it seem like neither one of those would be right. 1 gives you 3 over here. 2 gives you 2 on this side and 1 on this side. So it's probably 2 down here. This one gives you 1 and 2 on this side, and 2 and 3 on this side, which is probably not a problem. 2 gives you 2 over here, and just 1 over there. So I kind of guessed that 1 is right on this. 1 gives you 1 here, and 2 over there, which is probably right. And 2 gives you 1 here and 3 here. So I'm going to go 1 here, and then 2 here, and let's see, 2 here, 2 here, you can't change anything here. This still doesn't really do anything. This still is in the right place. So there must be something that gets resolved otherwise. Alright, so I think maybe I've just stumbled into the solution now. That sucked. So just the same sucky puzzle twice in a row. Would have been better if it had been separated apart and explained a lot better, but even if it was a great puzzle, it being back to back is pretty bad game design. The experiment is concluded. The door will now unlock. I can hear the door unlocking. Now we've got a new message. Release subject from restraining device. Lotus, are you alright? Yes, I am. I'm glad nothing bad happened, but I do think my life just got a little shorter. Hold on, I'll get you out right away. Shouldn't take long for Seven and me to get out of here, and this is the point where Seven will attack me and kill me and we get the bad ending. Let's get out of here now. Being a guinea pig is not for me. Damn straight. I don't even know. I don't ever want to see this thing again. So here we go. Kind of pointless not to just automatically move you out the door and make you have to remember where the door is. So, okay, we still have a little bit of time. So if we rush, I think we might very well get to the end. It's unlikely, I would suspect, that we are going to get any more escape the room puzzles. We're just about to get the ending, and I don't know how you get the good ending from this, unless the good ending here was that we've now made Lotus psychic in some way, that she can go back in a previous timeline and know things that would help us in some way. And then maybe, if that were the case, there's some way where you bring a different character down through this room and make them psychic by giving them a doing the same experiment on them. But it almost would then have to be a twin, I would think. That would be the assumption, to maybe make two people psychically connected, unless it just makes two random characters psychically connected. Let's see the story go forward.
Yeah, but I don't see any doors.
Guess we just need to keep going.
Right. Let's go.
After all of this, it's hard to believe that Lotus or Seven are really Zero and the killers, and that twist really would come out of nowhere. But it's also hard to believe that we're going to get a good ending out of this.
An elevator.
It's an elevator with a card that I don't know if we have.
Just what we need. Let's take this to C deck.
In silence, they jogged up to it. Junpei pushed the C button. Apparently, they could use it. Elevator motor ground away, and before long, they found themselves once again on C deck. The door opened, and they stepped off. Huh? Expected to find 4 people waiting for them. There were none.
No one's here.
Where did they go?
I have no idea.
Something in the pit of Junpei's stomach stirred. He tried to forget the feeling and took off down the long hallway before him.
Hey, Junpei!
We should follow him.
Yeah, it does seem like we're going to just get an abrupt ending. He ran and ran. It would be kind of silly if we just get axed yet again by Clover.
I know where we need to go. The door behind the central staircase.
The door behind the central staircase. How do we know that?
There was a sun symbol on the keyhole of that door.
Okay.
And I happen to have the sun key in my pocket right now.
Okay.
This should open that door.
Weird footstep sound effect, cycling a little too fast. That's why they ran for the central staircase. They'd run for quite some time when they arrived at the door at the end of the hallway. Junpei stopped.
Alright, time to open this.
There's been no reminder of how much time they have left, by the way. Seven has laid his hand on his arm.
Hold on a sec there.
Huh?
We don't have the key for this one yet, right?
It's the Jupiter symbol engraved over the keyhole.
That's...
Oh, it's the Jupiter symbol.
Seven's right. They had no Jupiter
We
key,
can't open this door.
so we've lost.
Unfortunately, no, we can't.
Jeez, the sun door's gotta be just on the other side of this, you know? We can't just stop...
Frustrated, he twisted the doorknob. The door opened.
Hey, it opened.
Apparently the other group had already unlocked it.
What?
It'd be a pretty pathetic ending if...
Yeah, the others must have found the Jupiter key.
It'd be funny if all the doors were unlocked and just nobody bothered to even turn the knobs.
What are we waiting for?
So... they rushed through and stopped cold.
What?
The terrible scene before them made their blood run cold. 3 people lay dead on the floor covered in blood. Okay, and one of them is Clover. And this is the first instance in which we've been able to see Santa and Ace's pants and shoes. Second time we've been able to see Clover's ankle warmers and shoes. So, let's see. How is June planning, assuming June did this, which you have to kind of assume, how is she planning on opening the 3 door? Let's see. June and Junpei would be 11. And then they would need an 8. Lotus. Or June and any number of watches and bracelets would also, I guess, work. So, plenty of solutions, I suppose, there. We won't even do the math on them.
Why?
So, in this story, Clover doesn't get the opportunity to be crazy and kill people. In this story, June is the crazy one. And in a funny way, like, we only talked to June for like a brief segment when we went through the 3 door and nothing else, which just does really go to show that the story is going to be different. Like, somebody is going to be the killer, but it doesn't have to be the same person each time. So in every replay through it, we can almost eliminate June and Clover as the killer as we try to approach any of the other endings. Junpei felt a cold sweat trickle down his spine. They actually showed the bodies here, but they showed them in such a way that you're not seeing any open wounds. You're just seeing that people lying in pools of blood. It would be funny if it turned out that Ace or Santa or Clover were actually faking that they were dead, and that they attacked you once you got close. Junpei, he couldn't breathe, his legs shook. A lot more story here than what you get in the novel screen or in the adventure screen. But there almost is an argument that I would buy into, but I don't quite buy it, that the game would be better if it moved faster, thus leaving out all of this dialogue speeds up the game. That's a lazy way to solve that problem, and it really just creates a bigger problem. His blood was boiling hot. He could feel his mind beginning to fade. He couldn't think, he couldn't concentrate. His mind was blank.
What the hell? What the hell happened?
Seven's voice was weak and broken. I guess this eliminates Seven and Lotus from being 0 in this case. He edged towards the body, his movement stiffened.
Clover.
He bent down over Clover and passed his fingers to her wrist.
Nothing.
Lotus moved. Before he understood what has happened, her hand was in Junpei's vest pocket.
Hey, what are you doing?
He leapt back. Lotus looked up at him, terrified.
The key. Get me the sun key.
Why?
Why do you think we have to get out of here before the murderer comes back?
So she wants to run. Good idea.
Murderer?
The murderer? Murderer? Once again, Junpei looked at the dead bodies.
Santa, Clover, and Ace. 3 people, 3 dead bodies.
The question is, who killed Snake in this scenario? Like, how would June have been able to kill Snake? She's 6, so if she had the 9 key at that point, which were the 9 bracelet, they should have just called them keys. 6 and 9 would have been 15, which would have been 6, but they needed 3. So she would have had to have somebody else authenticate that 3 door. Somebody else would have had to have done that to kill Snake. So the only way this makes sense is if June killed these 3 people because she thought Santa, Clover, and Ace altogether killed Snake. Which, let's think about that. Santa's 3, Clover's 4, that's 7. 7 plus 1 would be 8. 8 plus 2 for Snake, again, doesn't add up. So that math doesn't really work either.
That means that the person who had killed them was...
Yeah. Hard to believe that June did it from the looks of her, but easy to believe it after some of that conspiracy crazy talk.
No, it can't be true.
Give it to me!
Before Junpei could react, Lois dove back into his pocket and came out with the key.
Let's go!
Without waiting for Seven or Junpei, she ran straight for the central staircase. They followed. Junpei shut his eyes and swallowed his emotions. Morning would have to wait. Soon they stood in front of the door.
Open!
Lois shoved the sun key in the keyhole and twisted it hard, but
Why?
it won't open.
What happened?
Nothing. Nothing happened. I didn't feel it unlock.
Oh no. Is it the wrong key?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe there's no escape. Lotus sighed, defeated, leaned against the doorknob. She felt it twist. Small gap between the door and the frame.
It's open.
It's open.
What the hell is this?
So there are multiple sun keys. We knew that.
You mean the door was already unlocked?
Why?
How would I know that? Whatever, let's just go.
Lotus took a deep breath and slowly opened the door the rest of the way. They stepped inside. In front of them was another hallway. Too many hallways that stretched out toward the bow of the ship. It'd be funny if this was really, really long, considering there's no options here. Faster and faster they ran, trying to catch the end of the hallway. A few seconds later, they were there. In front of them stood a massive metal door. Is it too late? They were all breathing heavily as Junpei spoke.
Is this door? I can't see anything that looks like a doorknob or switch or lever or card reader or anything.
Yep.
How the fuck are we supposed to open this?
We don't have a choice. We're gonna have to go back.
No, I'm not going back there. There is a murderer back there.
So, did a metal door close, and behind this metal door was a numbered door of 9?
But I don't see any other doors.
Oh, it just opens. It's apparently it's just a motion sensor door.
It opened by itself.
It's an automatic door?
Okay.
Look, guys, I've got a really bad feeling about all this.
See, I don't know if this is a different place, like, or if this might have been how Clover killed those people off screen in the first ending, or if every path has certain places where there are just death traps that you can walk into.
The other doors were already unlocked, and this one's automatic. We haven't seen anything like this before.
Bad feeling.
Yeah. How could the situation possibly get worse? 3 people were already dead.
Hit bottom. This can't get any worse.
5 people are dead, by the way.
Shit! Hey, Junpei!
Would be fairly easy to maybe go back and get the 9 bracelet. So we step through the door,
This anymore.
and we're in definitely a different place.
No one can.
We're getting that odd upward angle again. So it seems like Junpei has lost it in the realization that June is probably the killer.
No. It's a lie. It's gotta be.
Yeah, the romance stuff still with Junpei and June still felt very tacked on, even in this path.
No.
Maybe we'll find one path where it really feels reasonable, but that'll be weird too.
If it's a dream, just wake up already. Someone please tell me it's all just a joke.
This would be funny if this ending was just a dream.
I'm imagining things. Yep, that's it. This is all obviously a lie. It's a big, elaborate trick. An illusion or something, or a dream. It's made up.
It might be. No, the code names meant nothing now. You know, the code names probably are the thing that hides a lot of the revelation of this story. And whoever suggested the code names was Ace at the beginning, I believe. So had they not used code names, I feel like very quickly Seven would have recognized Lotus's name. And I feel like a lot of these other people would have probably recognized each other also. Kane. She's dead too? Did she jump to her death? Or is there another killer? Junpei cried out and leapt through the door. He flew to her side, his heart like a stone in his chest.
Connie, hang on!
So, who's the killer then? Junpei swept her up and shook her by the shoulders. Apparently she is alive, but bleeding? Or she moaned and her eyes floated open, but only barely.
Connie!
Jumpy?
So what happened? Who's the killer? Zero, really? Her face was pale, her lips were dry and cracked. Her eyes were blank and cloudy. They stared straight at Junpei but saw nothing. Junpei put his hand against the small of her back to hold her up. It felt warm and wet. He lifted his hand up. It was covered in blood.
Oh, man. Connie.
Well, I guess I was wrong about June. She wasn't the killer.
There's so much blood.
Maybe it was clever somehow. Again.
What the hell happened to you?
Please tell me.
How did this happen?
These resolutions really do seem like they just come out of nowhere, though. They're not set up well.
Jumpy, I'm sorry.
And we'll not read all of this.
I might not make it.
No way. No way I am going to let you die. I am going to save you. I promise.
Thank you, Jumpy. Thank you so much for everything.
Somehow this might be the true love ending.
I was really happy.
Your true love ending is that June dies in your arms.
To see you again, Jumpy. Really happy.
What would be funny is if it turned out that these flow sections are actually just a lie. And the ending you get at the end has basically no connection to the paths you take regardless. So nothing you do really affects anything. That would be weird, but not unheard of. So you might always get the bad ending of the acts regardless of what path you're on. You might always get this ending as the second ending regardless of what path you're on. The only way to really check that would be to rewind and try and recreate the ending. And I don't know if rewinding would particularly do anything.
Don't was crap. You're gonna see me again lots more times.
Let's power through this.
Hang on.
We're gonna go a little late here.
You. Ow! What can I do? Damn it!
It's a
What's that?
submarine. Small submarine.
Submarine? What on earth is a submarine doing here?
So feels like he might be dreaming. He's gonna put her in a submarine and they're gonna escape.
Hang on, alright? There's a submarine over there. I'm gonna go see if it works.
No! Don't go! Please, don't go! Please, just stay with me, okay?
So they're just not going through the number 9 door at all, apparently?
I want to be close to you, Jumpy.
Connie.
Weird. Be funny if you got in the submarine and then there was a giant, like, opening metal door underwater with the number 9 painted on it.
Did you know? You meant a lot to me when we were kids.
I think that's pretty obvious.
I liked you for a long time, Junpei. A really long time.
Blah 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 blah. Let's get to the end.
Remember how we hung out a lot when we were kids?
I'm just so not sold on this relationship, so I'm so not sold on this ending.
We went to the pool and to the fair. Do you remember playing snowball at the school? They're all memories I'll never forget. All of those moments are treasures to me.
All I can think is just, who's the killer? Who's the killer? Just ask her, who did this to you? That's the first thing you should ask. Instead of all this, well, sentimentality, I guess. Who did this to you? Who should I be afraid of? Who's about to stab me in the back?
That won't happen now.
No. I mean, yes. Yes, it will happen. We'll go all sorts of places, Connie. You hear me? I promise. We'll go wherever you want.
Really?
Yeah, really. I swear.
That makes me happy. Really happy. Jumpy, I feel sleepy.
No, Connie, don't fall asleep.
Thank you, Jumpy.
A lot of dialogue here. Way more dialogue than most of the conversations. Now, I get it. If they had brought me along the journey and I really felt a connection between these two and related to these two, this would be impactful. I can't say it's bad writing. I just can say it's awkward writing due to the fact that the multiple paths make it very easy to not have any really backstory or characterization of the two, really. And even when they do get together, there's pretty bad writing in those sequences that really did not make me on the side of the two of them as far as them having a relationship.
Connie.
But also there's a just awkward pacing here because you've got the whole death sequence happening with also the threat of dying because there's a killer somewhere. So I bet they won't animate her bracelet falling off, but you can see her hands are clean. There's no blood on them. So it doesn't make it look like she was the killer. So who was the killer? Time passed. Junpei wept, curled around Kane's body. He cried and cried until he had no tears left. When the last tear for Junpei was no more, his body remained, but only as an empty shell. Somewhere he heard a bell ring. It was the clock at the central staircase. So is he just gonna run out of time and die? It's an interesting ending, I suppose, to say you just rang 5 times, then faded.
5 o'clock.
So, yeah. It'd be a weird ending to just give up and die for a video game. That's fine for a story, but it really takes away the agency of the player. Only then did he realize Seven and Lotus had not followed him. Where had they gone? Slowly he looked around the room. There was nothing. No sign that they'd ever been there. It felt as though every part of Junpei's body was made of lead. Slowly he made his way to the door he'd come through. As he approached, it opened, sliding apart with the sound of a grinding stone. And so is he going to go and find that the other two are dead also? Wow, this is a really, really bad ending. So, his heart rattled in his chest, an empty, lifeless thing. So here you can see Seven's dead. How, I guess, he was stabbed in the back, and then Lotus was apparently stabbed in the front because her back is exposed. And this is the first instance in which we get to see both of their legs, which, yeah, it does seem like Lotus was wearing kind of pants that were like lower than what would have been animated. In fact, the only way these pants / leggings even make any sense at all is if they were like under spats or something worn under the red skirt that you've been seeing. And even the red skirt is so below her hip line, and even in this animation it looks like they're showing a little bit of her crack. But the fact that her legs are covered at all is a move in the right direction as far as the clothing disparity between what Lotus is wearing and what even any of the other characters, including Seven. Now, there's a problem with Seven and the way he's depicted. Just look at how giant his feet are compared to Lotus's head or Lotus's hand, and his hands are giant compared to Lotus's hands or even her feet, if to get a closer perspective of two things off in the same distance. I never got the feeling that Seven was a like 6.5 foot tall person, or that Lotus was a particularly short person or a small person. So that just feels really out of scale. And I guess we're just gonna find out who Zero is and then die, because it doesn't feel like we can escape unless we can get all the watches. And then if we get all the watches, then we would be the only one that survived all the bracelets. Be funny if it turned out to be Snake. It'd be funny if it turned out to be number 9, but I don't think that's going to be the case. It had been so utterly broken that there was nothing left to feel. When he saw their bodies, he simply stared. It was a lake, a sea of blood. 2 bodies lay in it. There's no need to check. There's no breath left in them. So, apparently also, whoever the murderer is, I assume Zero, is like really efficient at killing people, that they could have grabbed these 2 and killed them very quickly, and those 2 couldn't have fought them off at all. Unless the reveal is that Junpei did all of this and he's been just a unreliable narrator the whole time. His eye lit on Lotus' wrist. Her bracelet. It was gone. He stared. It meant nothing to him. He didn't care anymore. He couldn't care anymore. Junpei's body felt numb. A part of him knew the lump of lead in his chest had once been a heart. He couldn't quite remember what it had been for. Tears poured from his eyes in great streams. He wasn't sure. Why? He gave up trying to make them stop. He turned around, opened the door again, and slowly, numbly, he walked through. He kept walking. Why stop? An object set in motion, simple inertia carried him forward. Eventually he found himself in front of the submarine. His arms reached for the hatch. And we get killed. And then he was floating in the water. So who needs Lotus's number? Could be anybody. I'm not willing to do the math. It could be somebody was faking, but yeah. Let's just find out who. His eyes stared down into it. He couldn't see the bottom. His back was hot. Dimly he felt the blade of a knife in it. It could also be that with Lotus's bracelet and Junpei's bracelet, you add up to 9. Who? One dead body laid behind door number 5. The body of the 9th man. Another lay in the shower room. Which we assumed, and I think properly identified by the clothes. Well, I guess it could have been Snake that did it, and Snake just put his clothes on someone else. Just a corpse that had already been there. And there was already blood in the shower room, so yeah. The body of Snake. At the central staircase were 3 more. Ace, Santa, and Clover. That's 5. Just outside the door were 2 corpses. Those are 7 and Lotus. And in the very room lay the body of the body that had once been Kane, assuming Kane is not faking being dead. And now Junpei would join them. Who then had killed them all? Who? Is it going to tell me, or is it just going to be the ending? Junpei let out his last breath. Faintly he felt the bubbles creep up the side of his face. His consciousness faded quickly, dissolving away into a cold, gentle lapping of the water. So, this would be funny if this was the good ending, where in the role of the game is to try and make sure everybody dies. But almost certainly that's not the case. This is almost certainly another bad ending. We got a lot of voice actors. I think we kind of skipped the credits the last time, and probably should skip the credits this time also. Yeah. Only 3 people in graphics. They could have used a lot more. They could have used a lot more voice recording, voice acting, and lines that were recorded. Yeah, you can see by the name of this, by the list of the credits, there was an incredibly small team on this, and so that definitely explains why it's such a small game as it is. Yep. And I think perhaps just a little bit Japanese games nowadays are tending to be a little bit bigger, and a project like this would have been a little bit more ambitious. And you probably would have had a game like this have at least twice as many puzzles and better writing, more voice acting. The end, or is it? Question mark. So I don't know how this is not a bad ending also. I think they want me to hit A. Will we unlock anything new? Would you like to save the info you obtained in this playthrough? After saving the game, will we start from the beginning? Press the select to save slot. Okay. So save slot 16. And so we got ending 3 and ending and the ending well, ending 3 and the last ending, the submarine ending, which that clearly was the bad ending, and I don't know how this path doesn't end up with that being the bad ending. So as I see it, if I can at this point rewind to this point, that's where you want to go.
Well, we really don't have a choice now.
So what we'll want to do in the next recording is we'll stay on this right path, which didn't seem like it really did anything other than introduce us to 7. It seems like that information was kind of useless. And then these little keys, why they're locked this way, I don't know, but it probably is an indicator that this is the right path and the other is the wrong path. And going forward, I wouldn't even be surprised if it turned out that this is the best ending, but you have to get all the keys. So what we'll want to do is go over here and do this and see if this gives us a key that's different from what we probably would have gotten here or here. And then when we get to this point, that's when we can see if we want to or need to go this direction to get back on this path to go this direction, or if we want to go this direction and see if we have to change something. We probably want to go this direction down the center path, so we can experience that new content. Like ideally you see this content and then this content in one ending, and that will leave us with only a couple of squares of content we haven't seen. This might be the good ending. That is also a possibility. Anyways, we went long, nearly 2 hours. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.